Yeah, today we're really happy to present to you this tool and this service called Siteimprove, which ETS is providing at no cost to the agencies. And we are using this to gain insight and awareness of our web accessibility compliance throughout our state websites. On our call today, we also have the folks from Siteimprove, our two instructors, Travis from Onlin and Kevin Rydberg, who would be taking over in just a bit. Travis is our principal customer success manager at Siteimprove, and Kevin is our senior digital accessibility consultant. Just some housekeeping. I'd like to remind everybody that today's web meeting is being live captioned. The caption service can be accessed via the link in the meeting invite. And we are also going to be recording this presentation. So to start, I'd like to take a few minutes talking about web accessibility and its relations to the state of Hawaii local government, the why we are doing this. And as you may or may not be aware, we employees of state local government entities are obligated by law, to provide our services non-discriminating to those with disabilities. And the main statutory driver for this is the Americans with Disability Act of 1990. You may have heard of it as ADA. And that prohibits disability discrimination by all public entities at the local level, which includes municipal, city, county, state. These public entities need to comply with Title II, issue regulations by the U.S. Department of Justice. These regulations cover access to all programs and services offered by the entity. And because our public websites, our public-facing websites are indicated as such a service, therefore our sites need to be accessible as well. So ADA Title II still doesn't have any specific web accessibility standards. So it kind of forces the states to come up with their own standards, which we did with a couple directives from the governor's office, or one directive and a comptroller's memo, to be clear. The first document is, let me put this up on the screen, is the administrative directive from the governor's office, subject all department agency, accessibility to state government by persons with disability. And in this document, there's a section that pertains specifically to state websites here. And it reads, state websites provide access to information about programs, services, activities to the public 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Departments and agencies shall ensure such information is accessible to everyone, including individuals with disability, by complying with the DAG's Information and Communication Services Division policy for accessibility of State Department and agency websites in the Comptroller Memo 2010-28. So it's also referencing another memo issued by the Comptroller. Creating and maintaining accessible websites allow individuals with disabilities access to information 24/7, similar to anyone in the general public using state websites. And here's the Comptroller's memo. So this is where we kind of set the guidelines for the state of Hawaii. And in this memo, we reference the Section 508 guidelines. And so what is Section 508? Section 508 is actually a federal law that applies to federal entities. It's part of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, which requires that electronic and information technology developed, procured, maintained, or used by federal government be accessible to people with disabilities. So Section 508 provides a set of guidelines like these listed here in the Comptroller's memo. Just some update on this. ETS is looking to issue an update to this memorandum to perhaps align a little bit closer with the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, WCAG, also known as WCAG, and to maybe possibly add additional guidelines and processes involved in creating new websites. So that's still yet to come, and our governance team, along with DCAB, is working on finalizing an update to this. So before we turn it over, I just want to break here to see if there's any questions from the audience. Feel free to kind of stop us if we're, talking about something and you have a question, or during the training when Kevin and Travis are going through the platform. If you have questions about what they're doing, feel free to chime in or chat in the chat window. Okay, anybody? John, anybody in the chat? Okay, so if no questions at this point, that was kind of the why the state has to be compliant. Let's see. Okay, yeah, so Vincent, if you guys want to speak up, you got to unmute yourself. Are you able to do that? Or are we locking you out from speaking? No, let's see. Okay, if John and Aaron, if you can kind of take a look at, maybe you might have to make everybody, there might be a setting in the Skype app to allow them to speak. Vince, did you have a question that you can type into the chat? Okay, well, we can continue, I guess. Let's see. So yeah, next up will be the.
Can you hear me now? Okay,
yes.
The presenter unmuted us, so now we can speak in when needed. Okay, good to go.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thanks for pointing that out. Okay, so Travis and Kevin will be taking over the remainder of the meeting to discuss their vision for a better web for all, and also dive into the Siteimprove platform training. So go ahead, Kevin or Travis.
All right, thanks, Bryce. I appreciate the introduction. Excited to talk with everyone today. We are going to be taking a deeper dive into the Siteimprove platform, and as Bryce mentioned, the initiative with our software, our platform, is to help make sure that you can be presenting an accessible website. And a big part of what we do is reporting. So being able to have your site that you're responsible for show you where the potential errors are out there. And I know Bryce threw around some Section 508, WCAG 2.0, WCAG 2.1. So just like anything, they make some fun acronyms that you'll start to become more and more aware of it. But it really, as Bryce mentioned, it does stem from the Americans with Disabilities Act and where the digital space is moving. So that's websites, that's documents, PDFs are going to be more of your accessible documents. An HTML web page, if you're going to throw something out there, is going to be one of your most accessible for people using assistive technology. But it's going to just it's turning into just part of the web responsibilities. So as you're going through, you're making updates to your content. Can't hear, sorry, just pausing, can't hear anything. Bryce, is everyone still able to hear me, or am I muted?
There may that looks like Deborah's just having an issue, so John will help her through that.
Oh, all right, sounds good.
So you can continue.
All right, sounds good. So I'll keep going, but just where it's in the physical space. So you wouldn't see a courthouse, you wouldn't see a building without an elevator if it's multiple stairs. And if you do see those, you see renovated buildings, and the cost becomes really expensive if you're, again, trying to renovate, do the add-ons. So it really is, it's cheaper to do at the beginning of your project. So as you're thinking about website redesign, as you're updating your content, just putting in the accessibility features right away, because it does take time to come back and do it on the back end. So looking at the Siteimprove platform, I guess I should have done a quick introduction of myself along with that. So as Bryce mentioned, I am a Principal Customer Success Manager here at Siteimprove, and I've been helping the state of Hawaii implement this platform and this software, and we're excited to roll it out to everyone. Everyone's going to be able to get access. The license is unlimited, so if you have people in your office change, don't worry about trying to sneak someone in there. Unlimited license, so you can get in and take advantage of the platform. Unlimited user's license. Also have the ability to scan additional websites under the hawaii.gov domain. So knowing that we can cover that. My role here is to make sure that you and the full state can get full value out of this platform. So it is going to be meeting with Bryce, Michael, John, the primary admins of this on a regular basis, and then also making sure that all end users are aware of some of the helpful resources right in the system. So today I'm going to point out a lot of the helpful resources where we're going to go over a lot. There's going to be a lot of information. This is recorded, so you'll have this to come back to. But if you go, you know what, I don't want to listen to that guy anymore, I want to learn on my own, or I want to listen to another webinar, we have monthly webinars, and we have on-demand training, we have interactive tutorials, just all on the platform. So with this, what is Siteimprove and how are we collecting this data? Right now I'm looking at just the elections website. My view today may be a little bit different than what you see as it goes through, but being able to get a high-level digital certainty index, quality assurance, accessibility, SEO, all of this information is information that we're pulling for, I'm going to use these words all interchangeably, a scan of your website, a crawl of your website, or a spidering of your website. So very similar to how Google will go in and index all of your content. We'll go through, we'll automatically, through an automated system, index all of your content on the website. So all of the code, everything on the back end, and then we overlay our information and we highlight, what are the accessibility issues that we're able to find. Quality assurance, that's going to be your broken links and misspellings. SEO, that's your search engine optimization. So are your pages out there, are they going to appear in a Google or Bing search? Ask questions as they come through. More than happy to stop, and then I'll be checking in on that chat feature at certain points too. So, but feel free to interrupt me if you're seeing something and you want to take a deeper dive after I went through it. So this digital certainty index, these scores out here, you can see 94 out of 100. This is a Siteimprove score. So this is something that's been created based on the different checks that we have and how well you're doing against those checks. And if you hover over, you can see quality assurance. Elections is doing good. Very few broken links, very few misspellings. The readability score, so is the content prepared for an 8th grade level, high school level, college level? Where are you at with that? And it's also where we inventory all of your content. Web accessibility, this is going to be the WCAG 2.0, that web content accessibility guidelines. Anything that we can check through automation, we'll put in here. There are checks though that need to be done manually, so we'll go through some of that. SEO again, search engine optimization. And if you've put a script on your website, you get some usability data. And what usability is, think of it like analytics. It's not our full-blown analytics tool, but you get page views, you get clicks on links, you get clicks on documents, and then something that not everyone will have access to, and I think that's just fine. You may see a response, or it may be hidden and you're like, oh, where is that? Just to give you a quick heads up on what this is, it's a different part of the service. This is where we're monitoring for site uptime, and the users that need to be alerted when the site goes down, they're alerted via email or text message through an automated process. The last tool that we have for just a really quick high-level overview towards that bottom right is policy. And think of policy like your own site search. So if you want to find a specific name, someone left the organization, you don't want their email out there, you have a new initiative come up where we need certain writing, we need the state seal on every single page. We need the governor's Twitter feed on every single page, and it's your responsibility where it may be out of template control. You can create a policy to find any page where that exists or where that doesn't exist. All right, looking at the left-hand navigation, this is going to be the menu, and this is going to get you everywhere into Siteimprove, all the different portions of the platform. As we're going through though, I'm going to go top right. We have our Help Center, and I mentioned after today's call, this will be recorded, be sent out, and how else can you get helpful resources? Help Center on the top, being able to dig in. We have a full team that's dedicated to this area, so it's updated daily, being able to have new articles, search field out here, and then for everybody, after today's call, if you still feel like you need more instruction, I'd go to this Getting Started section, and here's where we catalog our interactive tutorials. So step-by-step process right through your own website. I really like these because it is working on your own website and accomplishing something as it goes through. If you're more of a webinar person, scrolling down, we have on demand that will walk through more of the quality assurance, broken links, misspellings part of it, and then we have those live twice a month too. And if there's a need after today's call where say, you know what, we want to hear more, or we want more information just on my website, we can always work with Bryce, we can work with John, Michael, and we can schedule another one. Along with this, I am coming out to Hawaii next week, and we're going to be doing more training sessions on site. So if this is something where, you know what, I just want more of this, feel free to come. I'd love to meet you in person and have you in the room. But along with this getting started, I'm just going to close out of this window, bring us right back to the platform. We have our Help Center out here, guides, FAQs, same information, just a different way to get out there. So that's what you're going to find throughout our system is we present a lot of information and there's really no one way to do it. So trying to find something that works for you. And as you're clicking around in here, it's a challenge, I would say. Get in there today, start clicking around if you have access. It's been set up with single sign-on, so using your internal single sign-on link, and then start clicking around because you're not going to break anything in the system. And if you make a decision, if a change is made out there that you're like, I shouldn't have done that, I didn't know I had access to do that, it can always be undone, and you're not going to, again, break anything on your website. So we're a reporting system that's going to work right alongside your WordPress environment, so making sure that we can report and give you these errors. The reports, we scan your website once a week. So once a week you'll get updated reports. You should get an email saying, hey, here's my updated broken links and misspellings, here's my updated accessibility, and then those reports are archived in Siteimprove. The last Help Center article, just right in the platform, along with just help information that we'll find throughout. Question mark with the blue box on the far right hand side. Another area, this is connected right to our full Help Center search. So when you got those footprints out there that are a little bit small, these are these interactive tutorials that will walk you through what's going on in the system. I want to create my own customized dashboard. How do I do that? Being able to click through, you can see green box, highlights it, gives you some help text out here, and then it'll navigate you through. So I'm going to navigate back to elections. I think that's a good one to look at right now. All right, as we're digging into this, I'm going to start out with quality assurance. I know accessibility is going to be the big focus, but I think getting a handle on navigating the quality assurance portion of the system is going to make working on the rest of the site and working on the rest of Siteimprove a lot easier. It's something that everyone should be able to do, fix a misspelling, correct a broken link, unhyperlink something if that's going to be the case out there. And then again, once you get a handle on this, I think navigating through accessibility is going to be a lot easier. And it's also something that I know Kevin's mentioned before, other accessibility consultants on our team have mentioned. It's not a part of the guidelines, the WCAG guidelines, but a broken link, misspelling, that impacts a sighted user, it impacts non-sighted users, someone with a disability. So it's making your website more efficient and it's improving it kind of all around too, making it better. If you're putting content out there, you want people to be able to get to it and you want a good end user experience. And really we're here for that service and this reporting tool to make your responsibility of managing the website and even just giving you visibility into what do I have out there a little bit easier. So clicking around, left-hand navigation, you can see I'm dropped into the quality assurance. Click on the links on the left. Broken links, pages with broken links, again, that's where it's turning into reporting this very similar information, just in a different format. And then the big thing, and this is why Siteimprove exists, you click on the link, it opens up a new tab or window depending on how you have your browser set up, and then we'll highlight where does this error appear on your website. So highlighted in red there, miscellaneous excerpts, got that broken link, it's not connecting. Then you'd go in, top part of the system, edit in CMS, clicking on that. This is, we call it deep linking, but it brings you right to your page in WordPress. So I don't have WordPress access, I'm not a state of Hawaii employee, so I'm not getting in there, but that's that one link that can really help out and then make your job of working back and forth in between the systems a little bit easier. So find the link, edit in CMS, unhyperlink it, remove the link. That's a decision that's done internally. And then what can be done if you go, all right, well, we just scanned it on the 20th this morning, and I want it updated. I want it off my list, top part of this page. You can recheck the page on demand. So it's not as fast as a browser refresh, but you don't have to stay on this tab or window. Within a couple minutes, I've seen it as fast as a minute and a half before, normally no longer than 4 minutes. But that will send a signal to our system, go in, rescan this page, remove it from this list out here. Just the opposite, broken links, same idea. It's giving the information, navigating back and forth. So now I have the actual broken link, and then I can go out with the magnifying glass, and I can get to that page report too, and see, where is this broken link. So I wanted to spend a little bit more time on this page report. So we're in the quality assurance section. We're looking at broken links. If there's any misspellings out here, we'd be able to come take a look, and I just hit the back arrow right next to the broken links back on the top left out here. And I'm able to see all of the other quality assurance errors. So no misspellings. We do have some readability. So readability, again, what grade level is it at? And this can give you that quick look into how many syllables are in the word. Do we have any run-on sentences, any really long paragraphs? And something that I really like, and if you're not technical, you're out here and you're like, where is this error? It's in a drop-down menu, or it's not necessarily that easy to see with the highlight. Top part of this page report, I like disabling the CSS, so the style sheets. Obviously not as pretty out here, but it sometimes can make it a little bit easier to see. And then hopefully, if you're a developer, then you'll love it. But if you're not and you say, I don't want to spend any time in the HTML, hopefully you don't have to. But this is really what Siteimprove is doing. We're going through all of the code on the back end of your system, and we're highlighting, we're scanning this, and we're inventorying all of that. But again, for the most part, you should be able to stay in the page content as I click around fairly fast and then see again that red highlight. All right, I'm going to close out of that window and we'll continue back in the platform. And you're going to notice that's kind of my best practice tip in the workflow. When you're done working on a page, because we are the reporting system, you're making the updates in WordPress, next thing you know, you have 20 tabs, 20 windows open. Just for ease of use and workflow wise, I would close out of those as you move on. That way you're not spending time going, oh, did I fix this? Did I not fix it? Did I run a page recheck? Because that's something that it can take a little bit more time, and then it's sometimes frustrating. All right, so just stopping, looking for questions right now. All right, continuing on. Quality assurance, I'm going to start at the QA overview again. So what we have out here is fix these issues, exactly what it says, improve your score. So start working on the broken links, misspellings. Really nice thing too, and it's going to be something that we're going to see in accessibility, is what are the items that have been checked that are not an issue on my website? So I am spending a good amount of time in quality assurance just because I want everyone to know that there's a lot of action items across the whole platform and additional things that we're checking. So unsafe domains, we've linked into Google's API, and Google has obviously the biggest inventory of the web out there. So what have they identified with potentially malicious content? If you're worried about any PII, social security numbers, potential identification numbers, we're checking for that. And where I'm going to go with this is down in that inventory, this is again everything on your website. So are we finding any 3 numbers, 2 numbers, dash, 2 numbers, dash 4 numbers? Any chance of that out there for the US? I really like this spot though, just for the visibility of, what is on my website. I used to have to manually scan or crawl the information to find someone's name when they're been removed, look for an email address. You know what, we want people to just have the Hawaii.gov emails. Let me go over to another website, see if we can pull it in. Yep, so just the Hawaii emails. Do we have any emails that are external, that are not on Hawaii.gov? So additional information, expand it out. With Siteimprove, my biggest recommendation is, after today, be focused with your effort in here. It's nice to learn to start clicking around, but there is just a lot of information, so that I'm going to just go right back to first challenge would be go in, fix a broken link, fix a misspelling, and then start clicking around, getting through. And then probably one of my favorite parts of this area is our sitemap. So what is covered, what are we scanning, and organized by directory out here. So it's a good way to see, you know what, are we creating folders, are we creating directories out here that we don't really want one-offs? Did we have any idea that Enhanced 911 board had 45 pages? So being able to expand and just get a quick handle on how much content do we actually have on the website. Being able to see the last time it was scanned, jumping right back up into the QA overview, halfway down the page. Last completed crawl, 9/21, we're still crawling, so that's why it's still live out there. Next one, 5 days later, so a week later, and we've been scanning for a little over a month now on the majority of the sites, so we do have that historical record too. So you're going to be able to go in and see, you know, where was I day one out here? It's always nice to see the lines go down and drop, and you have the same thing in accessibility too. I'm going to look at misspellings just to show you what this looks like too. And I know this is just insight and good to know for everyone. We're checking US English. I know there's a lot of Hawaiian terms and phrases out there that we may flag. We are working on site-specific dictionaries and the ability to add more than one dictionary to check it against. So putting in Hawaiian out there, UK English, but again, we're checking US English for our dictionary right now. And very similar to the navigation of broken links, it's going to be your magnifying glass that sends you right back out there. Opens up page report, and then we'll highlight right where description is misspelled in red again. So right there on the top, description, being able to go in and fix. So a lot of this is, hopefully you're going to find these errors before anyone else does, and that way you're not going to get those emails or someone telling you, hey, we need to get this fixed. Along with this, let's say you're responsible for the website, but you're getting help or you can't fix an issue and you need to send it to someone else. You're working with another vendor, you're working with ETS, and it's a part of a template that needs to go to them. This page report link, so this top part of this link is shareable. You're able to copy this, open up, put it in an email, put it in a new browser. Only difference would be it wouldn't have that user access out there, but again, you can share it. That way you don't have to do a lot of screenshots, you don't have to do a lot of copying and pasting, explaining the issue. Just be like, hey, here's the link, here's the issue on this page, can you go and fix it? All right, closing out of some of those. Before I navigate out of quality assurance, does anybody have any questions?
Hey, Travis, there's a question in the chat. UC is asking, are there custom dictionaries user-specific or can they be shared?
Right now, dictionaries they're shared. So unfortunately, it's not user-specific. It's the one dictionary for the account right now, and that's something that Siteimprove is investigating. We don't have the solution rolled out yet, but so no. Okay. So that's kind of the short answer to that is nope. They're shared.
Okay. And then he had a question previously about WCAG 2.1 support. If you can explain about how the Siteimprove service uses WCAG.
So we are currently rewriting and updating our web accessibility checks. With the WCAG 2.1 support out there, the majority of the WCAG 2.1 are manual checks that need to be performed by a person going through and checking it. So as updates are made and an automated check of it can be done, we'll add it to the system and we'll let you know. But it's my understanding right now there's not going to be one whole rollout to be like, all right, now this is all 2.1. But I know looking at internally what our teams are investigating with that, the majority of the 2.1s are manual checks. Yeah, great question, Wayne. Can you ignore old post? Can you pick and choose content? So it's something that needs to be done by the administrative staff. But what we have the full ability to can control the crawler, the scanner, the crawler, the spider, the logic, and say, you know what, we don't need to scan anything in, I'm clicking all around, but let's just say anything in the blog directory. I know I went out to a page that doesn't exist, but that's something you say, you know, it's old content, it's out there, we're not going to fix it, we don't want reporting on it. Exclusions can be put in place to limit what our crawler sees. That is working with Bryce and the admin staff. It's a back-end part of the system, but that can be done.
Yep. And Travis, maybe touch upon the Siteimprove analytics, you know, as far as prioritizing, you know, which pages are being hit the most so that you can kind of tend to those pages first.
Yeah, so I quickly mentioned that usability. So what everyone has access to is Siteimprove usability analytics. And I'm going to jump in between quality assurance and accessibility for this one. But what you have is, if you're looking at broken links, we'll tell you what links are being clicked on out here to really help out with priority. So when you do log in, say, well, I have this full list. I have 83. I wasn't planning on spending my whole day just fixing broken links. What should I do right now? Work on the ones that are getting clicked a lot. Being able to go through, so 50, 5, 3, and then again, you don't want them out there, but it's nice to know that, all right, well, no one's clicking on them. They still shouldn't be on the website. I'll get to them. So that is the one tab that you'll see. Something else that is really nice that I'm starting to learn more and more with other analytics tools, that you have to set up event tracking or do additional setup to find out who's clicking on our documents. Siteimprove already collects this information. So if you have the script on your website, and where I went was left-hand navigation, inventory, and into documents, how many clicks are happening on these documents? Where do they live? You can get that last time modified. And this is really nice too for what we're going to be able to see in accessibility. If I'm going into the PDFs, I'm getting clicks on the PDFs out here. Well, how many times someone clicking on this? That can really help prioritize. And then what I like with this last time modified date, 2008, 19 clicks in the past 30 days. Is it still relevant? Is it still up to date? Do we need it out there? So that can be a quick decision too to say, well, we don't need to remediate it because it shouldn't even exist on the website. And it really is turning towards, we're not just going to keep, even being a government, we don't want to just keep expanding our site, making it bigger and bigger and bigger, because then it does get harder to remediate the accessibility issues, capture everything that's happening on the site. It's turning into more quality over content for government sites too. But yeah, we are indexing your documents, being able to scan them if they fall under the domain. So what you're going to see for accessibility, again, we're looking at, now we're back to AGS. If it has the document AGS in your domain, we're able to index that. So if I went out to a new site, if I went to airports, and the document has airports, and I can see that looks to be the kind of standard naming convention as I was clicking through and we've been doing setup. We're inventorying these as your internal documents and able to scan and report on this. All right, so I know I jumped around a little bit, but I'm going to jump into quality assurance just to pause again. Any questions on this portion of the system?
Looks like we can continue.
I'll continue on. Feel free to interrupt me if you're typing or something, if you have a question at another point. So let's go pick on elections again. And let's jump into accessibility. So very similar look and feel. You can see we got the circles out here. A lot of work has already been done at the template level, at the part of the WordPress, part of the website that you may not have access to edit. I know we're looking at a 64 out of 100, a little bit below. I want everyone to know though that you're moving in a really good spot. This 92 for errors and warnings, that's a really good number out there. 85 and continuing. Where you're getting dinged is there's still a lot of pages that have a lot of errors out there. I'm going to jump into issues because that's how I'm going to explain these errors, warnings. So the way Siteimprove has identified accessibility issues, we've broken them up into errors, warnings, and items that need review. Right now we took the stance of if we can report on it or identify that there's an element on your web page, let the user know and let them make the decision. So you are going to run into some issues out here that are review items. These are items where it is more of a manual process. We're able to identify that there's landmarks out there, that there's a tabbing sequence, but we're not able to determine, is it in a logical order? Does it make sense the way it's going? So we'll report on it, the ability to make those decisions. A level is going to be your biggest focus, and this is the A, AA, and AAA. As I scroll down, we have them just color-coded out here. These are the WCAG guidelines. That's how it's broken up. AA into A is going to be your section 508 to be able to hit that. So section 508, the federal guidelines, and that's where people are moving towards. They want to be 508 compliant. AAA, this isn't going to be your low-hanging fruit. It's not something that and I know we don't even have that many, and some of them are almost done, but it's not something that you're going to go in and say, all right, well, these are the easy ones before I tackle what I need to be. I'm going to get rid of these. These can sometimes be a lot tougher, the AAA. So where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck and where you're going to make the biggest impact for someone with a disability navigating your website. And as I say that, I'm just thinking out loud, making a website more accessible makes it better for everyone. So if you think about even the physical accessibility features, so elevators, easier, so you don't have to climb 100 stories. As you're walking on the sidewalk, the curb cutouts, it's easier for everyone. Being able to go through it, same way with the digital space. You make your website more accessible, it's making it better for every user that navigates to your site. I also like this Issues tab. It's going to be very similar to quality assurance where we report same information over, but I like the Issues tab because you get a nice view of how close am I to knocking some of these out, and you can get really specific. So if let's say you're a content editor, you go, well, I don't know coding, I can't fix some of these issues. Don't let it sit, get help, send those issues out. But if you want to say, I need an action item, just tell me what I need to do in here, I normally come in and I would pick either the webmaster or editor task. All right, we shrunk it down to 31. I would go to the conformance level using these drop downs. I would go down to AA, now we're down to 21. Errors, kind of the more egregious ones, now we're down to 6. This is a much more workable list. And if this is something where you wanted the whole time to come in, these filters are sticky. So they're sticky by user. So as you come in, again, you want your list shrunk, you just want to look in and see, how am I doing on these specific issues? This is the impact that I can make, and I can make a change on these. Use this. So let's go out just like we did with broken links and misspellings. Heading is missing text. All right, so I'm going to click on it. We have our graph of how have we done over time. We have our help text is right in the tool to say, what, I don't know heading missing text. I really am not sure what's going on out there. So we'll tell you. Magnifying glass again out. And then we can see, all right, well, there's an H3 out here. For visual user, this isn't impacting them. But if I have a sight disability, is my assistive technology reading me that there's a H3 heading there? And I think I'm missing something. Is it introducing? This one, it looks like it was used just for spacing. So what you'd want to do is actually just remove that H3. Because I don't think there's supposed to be anything in there. This is where, not even being a coder, I do like being able to dig into the HTML and use kind of those top drop downs of what am I looking at out here, even if it's highlighting on the page. Because this tells me it's like, well, it's a blank box. What's going on with it? Show HTML. And again, we'll be able to highlight. I can see, yep, it was done with the style. So potentially, just go in and remove those H3s out there if you can. So then I can see they got that additional questions. If there really is supposed to be something, well, then it'd be putting in text for it. But that's what this issue is reporting on. All right, I'm going to stick on issues. You're going to notice that it stayed sticky. And you might have saw it towards the top right, I have that export button. So you should already be set up to get automated reports. But let's say you want something more specific. You wanted to download something, work on your own project, or send it out. Hitting that export, almost anything in the platform can be exported out into an automated report. It could be thrown into an Excel file. I want all the pages out here. I want to view what's going on with this. And you can re-download, or you can download that pretty quickly. This add to widget, that's going to be your main dashboard, where when you log into the platform, so you know what, all of these scores are great, but again, what am I supposed to do out here? I want more action items. You can customize this dashboard. So you could put in a box of just broken links and misspellings. You could pull in your top accessibility items. And we have a couple that are already created. So we have our accessibility and content quality one. And I know this is something that was just set up, so not everyone will be able to view this one, but you can say, all right, well, I got my broken links, my misspellings, my accessibility score out here that I want to track to. And then I have a couple policies. So we'll jump into policies, but this is a good one. So I mentioned Siteimprove script on there to try and find information that's not on the website. So how many pages is actually missing the accessibility statement? Well, we found 4. So I'm guessing with these 2 policies, it's they're missing on pages that are not a part of the template. That's why they went in. But yeah, a lot of customization can be done just right inside the Siteimprove dashboard, right inside the whole Siteimprove platform. All right, let's stay in accessibility though, and let's go out to another issue. So we went into headings. I got my summary out here. Go into issues. What else do I want to see? This image does not have the correct alternative. Being able to click in and open up the report. As I open that up, I'm going to let that tab load. You're going to notice on the right-hand side, we have the CMS button. I mentioned that edit in CMS. It's going to be that same link. So being able to open it up, edit right in WordPress, work back and forth in between Siteimprove and WordPress. All right, now we're out here though. Let's see. All right, so we have this item. It's kind of difficult with the highlight, but it's the banner scrolling through, and we're finding empty alternative text out there. So highlighting where the area is. Can you go in? Can you update this? Again, working internally, if it's an issue that you don't have access to edit, if you're responsible for the website, you need to get that in front of someone that can edit that and being able to identify those issues. Also, using the page analytics, a lot of people go in, so this is just one issue, but being able to help prioritize. How many people are viewing this page? This analytics is just the previous 30 days, so just a heads up on that. But past 30 days, being able to help prioritize, what is my big focus out here? Where do I need to spend time? All right, so I'm going to continue navigating a little bit, and then I know Kevin's joined, and he wanted to go into some priority issues too. So I'm going to pass it over shortly, but as we go through guidelines, similar idea, just presented in a different format. And I really like this page to get a high level of, you know what, yes, I still have issues out here. I still have items that I need to fix, but what am I doing well? These green check marks out here, being able to get a quick look at that. And what you'll notice out here is the grayed out issues. These are issues that an automated checker can't check. So these are the ones that part of the guidelines, some of the manual testing to work back and forth in here. Quickly dropping down to pages. Again, similar idea, just a different way to present this. no right or wrong way. I like working off the Issues tab. I know one of our accessibility consultants really likes working off the Pages tab. If you do have more of that developer background, because you fix issues on a single page, a lot of times it is template level and it populates throughout the whole website. But again, clicking right on the link will pop it out. But yeah, so I want to introduce Kevin again. Kevin Rydberg, he's our senior accessibility consultant here at Siteimprove. He's very knowledgeable in the accessibility field. He knows what's going on out here. So he came on today, and he's going to be coming out in person too to present on more what's going on with kind of the world of accessibility, and then also again being really specific, getting into some of the details of, you know, what should I do as an editor? What are some of the things that I can do? And before I guess I pass it over, I just saw a question come in. Will we be able to scan sites for state agencies that aren't on the hawaii.gov domain? Example, libraries, hawaii.org, courts, state HI. So all of them, we should if they are under the state agencies. So for state agencies, yes. So as long as it's for the state agency, we should be able to get that in there. But that's going to be, I think, a bigger conversation. And I know for this portal one, it's going to be, can our crawler get in through the login credentials? So username, password, are we able to scan that? But it's something that we've done in the past.
Yep. So Rosie, just to reiterate what Travis was saying, we do have the ability to add websites that are non-hawaii.gov domains. But actually, we have a couple exceptions in there right now. I think we have like Hawaii Tourism and a couple other .org sites. So we have the portal.ehawaii.gov being crawled as well right now.
All right, Bryce, can you turn the presentation over to Kevin?
Yeah. So he's been promoted to presenter. He can just go ahead and share his screen, and he should be good to go.
All right, sounds good. Kevin, are you able to join the audio? Well, Kevin is working on this. I can continue on, and we can go through the rest of we can continue with the platform. Yeah, but Kevin, interrupt at any time or put in the chat if you have run into an issue. But I mentioned, and we stepped in here a little bit earlier, into our PDFs area. So again, we are looking at the documents. Big thing with this, I like machine readable and tagged. These are going to be your biggest issues. Make sure that they're both. That way it's not just a picture of the website. Once it's a picture, it's an image with no information out there, making it very difficult for anyone with a sight impairment, sight disability to be able to see what's on that. And to really just kind of highlight that, let me try and find one that's not machine readable. Because it's something, again, that just going through as a user, a lot of people I'm sure have experienced. So I'm going to open it up. I just clicked on that window and I opened it up the PDF directly. I'm looking at this and I'm trying to highlight State of Hawaii Elections Commission. I'm not able to. So this isn't, if I'm using assistive technology, there's no information that's being read off to me on this one. Can't copy it. If there was a number in there, if I just wanted to copy the address, I'm not able to. So again, making it machine readable and tagged. It's my understanding tagging a document, if you're creating it in Adobe, being able to just hit the tag on there as you're creating that. Along with this, as you are making documents from Microsoft Word, there's accessibility checks right in Word. So being able to hit that check even before you turn it over into a PDF, and making sure that you're either saving as a PDF or creating a PDF from Word, never printing to PDF. When you print a PDF, it just turns it into an image for the most part. But again, I'll open up this one quick, and I'll show you this is both tagged and machine readable. I think I opened up and now you can see it's a little bit smaller, but I can copy this. I can highlight it. I have more navigation in here, and very similar to those HTML reports. You click on it, it opens up a page report, and again, we'll show you where on the page there's potential issues. So this one, it's a site-wide document, it's just not tagged, but if there's images out here, we'd be able to show you the images. Let me close out of those. All right, so Kevin's calling back in. Let's continue just kind of in accessibility. So I mentioned the Help Center resources on how do I get into the Siteimprove platform, but let's say you want additional help where I need more just knowledge on accessibility. We've had a lot of trainings internally, high level, but I want to be certified, or you have someone new to your team and you want to get them involved and you want to provide the information. Help Center, and then right into the Academy. Every user has access to 4 courses. 2 are specific to accessibility. Another one is for web analytics, and then another one is for SEO fundamentals. But the general digital accessibility basics, this is a great course, especially if you're brand new to digital accessibility, to just get a high-level overview. It is a certification course. And then if you're trying to say, you know what, I want to put more action in, I've clicked around, I've watched some of the trainings, but I need more help again, using this course can help implement that. SEO fundamentals and the digital analytics basics, these are both great as domain knowledge themselves. I tie that in with the first one up here. It doesn't have to be specific to Siteimprove. You can take this knowledge and you can use it on Adobe Analytics, Google Analytics, you can use it on another tool. Same with SEO. We hope you use it on ours, but again, probably about an hour and a half, less than that, probably about an hour, interactive. It's not necessarily just to sit back and watch a webinar, so definitely great courses. And I recommend and try and challenge everyone to get in there and try and take them, because I know everyone has so much time on their hands. And I say that definitely with tongue-in-cheek, which I know is kind of tough on the webinar, but if you do have time and you want to get more information, the Academy is a great spot. Along with the Academy, if you're looking to connect about, hey, you know what, I really like Siteimprove, I didn't see if they had a specific feature out there, or I just had a question in general that it's not a question on the platform necessarily, it's, hey, what are other people doing with accessibility? We have a whole community out here, operates just like any other community. The good thing with this, though, is it's monitored by our product teams. So if it is more of a feature request or a question on, you know, what is going on with WCAG 2.1, the worst that you're going to get is an answer from a member of our product team. So you're connecting with the right people over here. I highly recommend it. And now that I'm in here, I realize I forgot about connecting with us. We are software. I hope you don't find any issues. I hope everything works perfectly. I know that's not the case always. So if a question does come up, best way, submit a new request right through the Help Center. So it's going to be in your top right. Let me navigate to that another way too. So we're in the platform, Help Center, and it should be on every page within the Help Center out here. Submit a new request, connects with us. I know we're located, Kevin and I are located in Minneapolis, but we have offices around the world. So definitely use this. You have support across the world to have questions, so don't feel like you only have a couple hours to connect with Siteimprove. So again, submit a question, and that brings me into kind of something that you're going to find, especially because I challenged everyone, go in and fix all your broken links. You may find that we're reporting on a link, and you say, well, that's I can connect to it. Why are they telling me it's broken? The system's not working. That's not always the case, where you may be able to connect to it, but you can connect to it because it's inside your network. It's intentionally blocking Siteimprove from connecting to it. So when I see this, can't resolve host name, normally that is a legitimate broken link. This can't actually be reached. But if I get out here and I see some of the codes where it's a 403 forbidden, that means it's intentionally blocking an outside user from checking that. See if I can find one quick. So right here, 403 forbidden, Hawaii press.books. Click on it, run into this. Yes, I can eventually get to it, but should I be able to get to it, eventually land on that 403? Should it even be out there? So that's why we report on it. If you do have a question on, hey, I can connect to this, it's available to the public, what's going on with this? Reach out and let us know. There's some configurations kind of on the inside of our system where we can potentially hide where we're coming from and get in there to actually check the status of that link. But focus on 404s and the ones that are broken out there.
Travis, can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you, Kevin.
Oh, thanks. I had called in on the phone line, but evidently it wasn't going to let me work with you on that. So I guess I'm ready to go here whenever you're ready to have me.
All right, awesome. So we can, if you want to share your screen or take on over, I was going through a lot of the platform, trying to highlight some of the high-level accessibility issues. And again, everyone, we have Kevin on to give us a little bit more insight and more of the knowledge depth on website accessibility.
Can you see my screen already?
I cannot.
All right, let's try one more time here. Okay. Anything yet?
Nope. And I stopped presenting. So is it something where...
I might have to be given permission or something here.
Oh, you are. You're a presenter, Kevin.
Okay, so you can see my screen now. You
Not
see
yet.
The list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
No, not yet.
Okay.
Do you have the monitor icon down below, and you
Yep.
click that and said share your desktop or share your
Yep.
windows?
It says share screen, and that's what I'm doing. Okay, we're getting
Maybe
close
wait
here.
1 sec. Yeah, coming through. I see something loading.
All right, let's give that a try. All right, can you see anything now?
Not yet. Maybe Travis, you might have to share, and he can
There we
kinda-
go. I got a little pop-up that said I'm sharing my screen now, so
Okay,
what do you think?
give it a moment.
Yep, something's moving.
Okay,
Okay.
we got it now.
We're good.
There we go.
Hey, we love this technology stuff, so. All right, well, hi everyone. I appreciate your time today. My name is Kevin. I'll be working with Travis. See you, some of you next week, I guess. And what we wanted to do today was we wanted to just give you kind of a rundown on some issues that you can manage very quickly and easily yourself. They're not necessarily code issues, but some of them are a little bit more code-based, like the tables. So what we just want to do today is we want to just show you that, hey, you know, you guys are showing us a ton of information in this tool. It's fairly overwhelming. I don't have a ton of background in coding experience. What am I supposed to do with this mess? So what I wanted to do today was I just wanted to give you kind of our top 5 for content people, walk you through some different ideas and get you thinking about accessibility and what's involved in making things accessible. There's a little bit of code to it, but it shouldn't be too overwhelming for you. A lot of this stuff can be handled right through WordPress. But I want to just give you more concepts than anything right now. So we're going to go ahead and jump in. And the top items that I want to talk about today are going to be your heading structure, your image, alt attributes, links, just a brief talk about tables, and then we'll jump back in documents. I know Travis has already covered a lot of this stuff already. So we'll take that information that he's shared with you, and then we'll build on that a little bit. So first and foremost, we're going to address headings. So if there's one critical thing that you can do to help assistive technology users navigate through your web page is to build a good, clean heading structure and use the headings correctly. Why are they so important? Well, number one, search engines use those headings. They index that structure of that page, and they add context to those search results. And you can rely on the heading structure and the importance of that information to get transferred right into what folks are looking for, both via internal search as well as the search engines. Now, we as cited users typically will skim a page by headings, and we'll decide what we want to read based off of what we can skim. Okay, well, assistive technology users are able to do the same thing with their software and hardware combinations, and so instead of reading the whole page trying to find what they're getting to, they're going to rely on that same heading structure that we rely on visually. So that makes us think who really is affected by accessible headings, and that's everyone. Now, we already talked about, normal users or regular users, what we would consider that, but we also have our assistive technology users. But just think about some other areas where the headings are important. Think about a person who has dyslexia and how they rely on chunking that information so that it's more digestible. English is a second language. There's a large part of our population now that doesn't always, they're not always native English speakers, so they again are going to rely on those headers. Low vision users, they can use that, again, breaking that content apart, and then like I had mentioned already, the search engines are going to be happy to see that information. So how do they really impact those users of assistive technology? So they're really helping you organize your content. I mean, writing for the web is essentially building outlines, building bullet lists, and then filling in more information under those bullets. We don't really write a lot of prose online unless it's intentional. What we're looking for is we're looking for straightforward information. We're looking for just the facts. We're looking for a listed set of instructions, whatever the case may be. So more is not always better when it comes to writing out our content for the web. So with that in mind, just think about how we can organize based off of those quote-unquote bullets or headings, okay? So people that have problems with short-term memory, they really benefit, again, from those well-labeled chunks of content. So, your main H1 or your main information of the page will be readily identifiable. And then how you break that information down, you can go down quite a few layers if you need to. Typically, you don't need to go that many layers down with headings, but by providing that good structure, that screen reader user can skip along and read the headings. It's pretty straightforward. I'll show you here in just a moment. So again, heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, think about that hierarchy. And then what I've got right here is a visual display of a heading list. And this is what a screen reader user is able to get for information if they want to scan that page by headings. So if you look at this example here, you'll see BBC Home is your heading level 1. And then you've got heading levels 2, 3, 4. This is a very well done site. Okay, this is BBC, and they're one of the global leaders in digital accessibility. But this is how I would utilize my screen reader technology to figure out what's on that page by relying on that heading list. Okay. So what we're really doing, again, is we're breaking this information into manageable, digestible pieces for speed and efficiency for all of your users. So we'll take something like this, one chunk of information, and break it apart. So now we have 3 smaller pieces of information that I don't have to read all of if I don't want to, but I can also, think about the hierarchy again. Another good way to represent this is through the use of this type of structure here. And we'll say, for example, we've got a list of all of the critters at the zoo, and that's going to be our H1. This page is really about what animals are at the zoo. Well, we've got different sections of the zoo and different types of animals that we want to display, so that would be our next level of heading, or in this case an H2. But then we can go down to an H3 and be very specific about, like, for example, the 3 different kinds of birds: ducks, eagles, penguins, or the reptiles, snakes, tortoises, lizards, things like that. So you can see how you can get very granular with these headings. And then if somebody wants to just come in and read about tigers, they can quickly navigate to the tiger section based off of those headings. Now, we saw an example of it a few minutes ago when Travis was showing us the one page, but there was a heading that was missing some text. Now, that can be a bit of a problem for assistive technology users, because essentially what you're doing is you're putting up a street sign with no words on it. Okay, you're telling somebody that there's a sign here, there's something that's supposed to be here, but I'm not identifying it. Now, it can happen in multiple different ways, and one of the most common is when you're copying from a Word document and building a web page. You're going to copy and paste off of that Word document, and anything that you've copied may be carried over. So you may have accidentally brought an empty heading over, or a heading that was used for spacing right from that document. So keep in mind that it's really easy to transfer that information, but it's also really easy to clean up, as Travis already showed you. So, but again, 3 different ways that this happens are copy paste. Sometimes we hit enter one extra time to get a little extra spacing in place. And sometimes it's built into a template. We're expecting something to automatically populate in that area. So it is fairly common, but it is something that can be easily remedied, and it's something that will make a difference very quickly. Now, another thing that we want to talk about, and I'm not going to talk about it a lot today, but when we do talk about coding, we talk about semantic markup. And what we're talking about here is actually marking up that heading as a heading. This is as deep as I'll get into the code today, I promise, but what we're looking at here is we're looking at a paragraph. And then we've used the font tag to size it, and then we're using a bold tag to make it, to decorate it a little bit more, when essentially what we wanted to do was we wanted to have a font that was 28 pixels and bold as our heading. Well, we can do that with CSS now, and look at the string of code. Okay, 3 tags versus 1 H2 tag. Now that H2 in this case would be all that you would need. It's going to tell the user that it is a heading, and it's going to be styled and look exactly how you want it to look. So we've gone from 3 tags down to 1 tag, and we actually have meaning behind that tag so that we know it's a heading. Okay? So again, I'll talk about semantic heading off and on throughout the day, but this is really what we're talking about, is marking up the information that we want to deliver as the type of information it really is. So just a few suggestions. Just keep in mind that main headings are going to describe your content. Subheadings are going to summarize or label different sections. You can utilize those keywords or phrases to help with that search engine capability, as well as really give people the clue of where they're going and the chunk of information that they're looking for. Try to avoid jargon as much as possible. Sometimes it is necessary, especially if you're dealing with very specific state level terminology or scientific terminology, medical terminology, things like that. But wherever possible, avoid that jargon. Let's keep it simple. Okay. Start those headings and labels with distinguishing information. So in other words, don't bury the lead. You saw that screen capture, and it's a very short phrase. So let's keep it very concise so that our users get that information right up front. Okay? And then one other thing visually, do not use all caps for headings, because this gets into a whole different area. And we get to arm wrestle with our designers on this sometimes, but what happens is all caps, which are used for headings fairly regularly, are more difficult to read. Again, for that person with dyslexia, for that person that English isn't their native language, let's use sentence or title case for those headings so it's more readily readable for everyone that's coming to the site. Okay, now we're going to move on to alt attributes. Now you're going to hear me say the word attribute quite a bit today, because you maybe think of it as an alt tag. Well, an alt tag is not really the correct way to pronounce it or to use it, because the alt attribute is a part of the image tag. Okay, so what we're really talking about here is an additional piece of information that we associate back with an image tag. So remember that images are a very important part of your communication. There's a reason that you're using those images on that page. You're communicating with pictures. They can also enhance comprehension. They can really, not only change the look and feel of the site, but you can communicate a lot of information with an image, okay? But the thing about an image is you always need to use alternative text attributes. Now, there's a difference between a title and an alt, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But what we're talking about here is alt equals. If we look down the list a little ways, you'll see that we've got the alt equals in kind of a code view. But keep in mind that when a screen reader comes to an image tag, the first thing it's going to do is it's going to look for that alt attribute, and then it's going to communicate whatever information is in that alt attribute to the screen reader user. So they're going to hear something like image child on bicycle, versus image slash images slash 2018 slash news slash October slash DCIM underscore 2715.jpg. You'll see where that alt becomes very important very quickly, especially when a screen reader is trying to read the entire path to try and interpret what that image is. So the screen reader users would call this probably the second most important thing that you can do. Screen reader users, blind people, do like images, especially when they have a good description, because again, they communicate a lot of great information. But let's say that that's just a decorative image. It's not there to communicate any information. It's really just part of the site layout, the decoration. It's maybe some sort of a little flourish on there that adds some nice artistic attributes. Well, if that's the case, then we want to use alt equals, and we call this a null alt attribute. So it's alt equals open quote, close quote, with no space in there. Okay. This null attribute is read by a screen reader, and the screen reader says, hey, this image is decorative, I don't need to read it out loud, and it essentially skips over that for a screen reader user. So it takes a little getting used to, but you know very quickly which images really are decorative, just kind of eye candy, so to speak, and which images are there to communicate a very specific issue or item, okay? What's even better than using that alt equals null is to move those decorative or those design images into the CSS. That way, if you change that image in one spot in the folder, in the CSS, image folder, it's going to cascade through the entire site. So you can use that decorative image in the layout multiple times. You can use it in the template, and if you change it in one spot, it's going to cascade through everywhere. Now, one of my old positions was at a higher ed university, and when I took over the website, one of the first tasks that I had was to remove a 125th anniversary logo from the website site-wide. They said this event is over now. Everybody's been using this logo for the last year. Now let's go back to the standard logo. The problem was that they had just distributed that logo to everybody that managed their own web pages via email, and there were about 255 instances of that image that I had to go out and find one by one because I didn't know where they were housed. So this is a case where you'll see how CSS can play to your favor very quickly. Now, I mentioned title attribute a moment ago too. A title attribute is not the same as an alt. Okay, a lot of times we'll use a title on an image, but we won't use the alt attribute. In fact, I used to do that myself as well. The title attribute actually gives you that little tooltip or that little hover information. So what happens is that is available for a sighted user, but a screen reader will not read that title. It's looking for that alt. So you can use a title with an alt, or you can use an alt with no title, but don't use a title unless there's an alt as well. Okay. Next thing that we want to talk over, we'll talk about it here a little bit more in a couple slides, but we're going to talk a little bit more at length about using text within images, and you'll see what I mean when we get to that section. But let's go ahead and give you some examples here. Now, when we start to talk about those alt attributes, it's really important that we're talking about context. Okay. So what we really want to do is we want to represent in that alt attribute what's the reason for this image. Okay, so context is really important, and you can put an alt on an image, but you'll lose the spirit of the law. You'll lose the spirit of the reason why that image is even even on the page in the first place. So a good tool like Siteimprove will inspect the page. It's going to look for those alts, and then it's going to give you a list of all of those alts. It's going to give you a list of all of those images so that you can validate the validity or the context of that image. So that's one of the things that the tool does very well. It is a fairly labor-intensive project, especially on a very large site, but again, we have to communicate within context. So to continue this example, we're going to take a look at the robot that's on the right-hand side of the screen. Now, there's a couple different alts that could be used. First and foremost is alt equals null. So we will want to look at that and determine, is this robot just there for decoration, or are we trying to, communicate something directly with it? Alt equals picture would need to be reviewed as well. Now, we know that there's no context to alt equals picture. So that would not be an appropriate alt. We would want to rewrite that so that it, lends more meaning. For example, toy retro robot. We would review that as well, but we could determine that, hey, this is a good alt. It represents the toy that's on the screen, and it's, it's communicating what we want it to communicate. I'm going to give you one more example, and this one here, we've got some different choices. Now, which is the correct alt for this image? Before we say correct alt, let's think about it as more of an appropriate alt. And the reason I say that again is because if we look at our first two examples, image could be correct, tree could be correct, but they're not really appropriate because they don't communicate what we want them to communicate. Okay, so if that's the case, we can now choose from maple tree, red maple tree surrounded by multicolored fall foliage, or decorative if that's the case. Why would we put something as a maple tree? Maybe we're on a botany site, or something like that. Red maple tree surrounded by fall foliage. We're maybe at a city or county park site, and we're talking about the beautiful fall foliage. So there's again that context piece that we're looking for. We want that to come through, and we want that to do a great job of representing those images that we're putting out there. So again, meaningful or contextual is what's really important. And I've had blind users tell me that in some cases, poorly written alt is as bad or worse as not providing alt text at all. So, be thoughtful in your approach. Now, as a content contributor, sometimes it's your responsibility to understand that. You're maybe just given that image and said, put it online, or it's a picture that goes with the news story or whatever. But again, context, okay? The alt should be accurate and really equivalent to present the same information as the image. And why we want to do that is, again, we're communicating, a picture's worth 1,000 words and all those kind of things, okay? Don't be redundant or provide the exact same information if there's text within the image, okay? We want to communicate the same information that text is doing, but it doesn't have to be a complete duplicate. And finally, don't use image of, picture of, graphic of, because it's already announcing that this is an image. So that's a redundancy that you would have, image tag, image of, whatever the case may be. So you don't need that. All you need to do is put that, red maple tree in the park. Now, we talked about images of text, and let me describe what I mean or communicate what I mean by that. Text is typically something that's overlaid on top of the image. It's done in Photoshop or another program like that, where it could be a carousel image, it could be an ad banner, it might be something along those lines where we've actually taken that text and put it right into the image. Okay, once that text is on that image, it can't be read by assistive technology because it's part of the picture. It's dots, it's pixels, okay? So it's not friendly for search engines either, okay? And depending on your color, font choices, scalability, things like that, they can be very difficult to read. So again, we're talking about low vision users, dyslexic users, things like that, not just that screen reader. Too much text cannot be read in time on a slider or a carousel. So sometimes we overload our slides on that slideshow that we're doing with too much text. Okay, and again, it doesn't scale well when it's pixel based. You can blow that thing up 700%, and the picture might be okay, but the text now is not, it's blurry or it's really pixely. Okay, and keep that in mind as well. Text doesn't display well on a mobile device. In a lot of cases, it just scales that image down. So if there's a lot of text on that image, it could be difficult to read that way. Now, as we're talking about your sliders and carousels, I'm just going to put in a word here that there is a ton of data that shows that sliders do not work anymore. They're getting to be a thing of the past. Now, that might be a tough argument. You typically have a marketing team or an office that says everybody's got to have their piece of the homepage, whatever the case may be. Those are political battles and arguments. You can't necessarily do away with those carousels, but just be aware that, again, there's a negative impact on your conversions. They're either ignored entirely or in some cases they're only clicked on maybe the first or second image. If you go 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 images deep because you think you need to get that information on the home page, for example, you're not being successful in the analytics to show that. And according to James Roy Lawson, the carousel gets ignored, it's distracting, it squeezes out relevant content, and it does cause global warming. So I'm not sure about that last one or not, but don't shoot the messenger here, okay? So let's say that you're stuck using a slider or you still continue to want to use a slider. Just keep in mind that don't use more than 3 images. Anything deeper than 3 will definitely be lost for sure. Try to keep them as photographic in nature as possible. And then there should be a caption or headline used that can maybe overlay or be underneath or part of that carousel that's not necessarily the text in the image. Okay, make sure that they're relevant to the content. Don't use a slider for navigation. That's just going to send somebody on a wild goose chase. If there's a call to action, if there's a register button or whatever the case may be sure that that link is in the caption and not just the image itself. Okay, and then again, make sure that you're using descriptive alternative text. If you've got that image that is going to be in that slider and it may be a call to action, you'll want to say register for golf tourney or whatever the case may be in that alt attribute as well. All right, we're going to move on from the images now. I'm just chugging along here with a lot of content today. Links. That's what makes the web go round. I mean, that's why we have the web, is because links are that critical, crucial element. Now, why are they so important? Well, because just like you and I, our screen reader users are going to rely on sometimes navigating that list of links the same way they navigate that list of headings. If they come to a page and discover that there's a lot of links, that may be the way they decide they want to go through that page. Okay, what's really important here is what's going to happen when I click on that link. That's really what we want to communicate with those links, okay? So good text is important. Click here, read more, download. With no context, we're just right back to that, just like that alt attribute. Again, context is huge here. And title attribute is not useful for assistive technology. They can be read by some of the screen reader users, but we don't want to rely on those title attributes. And finally, a skip link or a bypass link is really important for all users that rely on a keyboard, not just assistive technology users. Because let's say that you've got a menu on the site and there's 60 links. If you're not giving me an opportunity to bypass those links now that I know the layout of the site and know what I'm looking for, and then go right to the main content, I'm going to get frustrated because I don't want to go through those 60 links every time I click on a link to go to the next page. So who is affected by accessible links? Once again, all of your users are affected. As a sighted user, I want to have an understanding of what's going to happen when I click on that link. I don't want to go on a wild goose chase. In fact, I even want to know if I'm going to be going off the site or not, okay? So with accessible links, we're going to increase usability for everyone. It's going to be consistent throughout the navigation. and you're going to rely again on the higher conversions and search engine optimization. So remember that the links again are that crucial part of what a Google search engine or a search crawl is looking for. If we use something called non-distinguishable link text, things like contact or contact us, but multiple different locations that it's going to, we see it in high ed a lot with contact admissions, contact athletic department, contact the dean, whatever the case may be, but it just says contact. It doesn't give us any more context than that. It can be difficult. Now keep in mind that we can add a lot of work behind the scenes so that this information is readily available for screen reader users and it doesn't upset the design that we've already got in place. We're adding information that may be invisible, but it's very useful for assistive technology. So here's another screen example. If you look here to the 27 links image, and this is actually a screen capture from a site where there are 27 links on the page and every one of them just says click here. You're going to get tired of hearing me say it for the next couple weeks, but context. It's all about context. If I don't have the context of what's going to happen when I click here, then I'm not going to stay on this site. I'm going to go somewhere else for my information. Okay? So let the user know where the link is going to take them. Be descriptive where you can. Okay? And if you're going to trigger an action, which I'll show you here in just a moment, then let's go ahead and state that function. And my page broke. Well, that's all right. We can get through this, guys. This isn't too big of a deal. So the functional images is really what we want to talk about, because what's going to be important is if you look at that green text, what we're doing is we're talking about what that image is there for, not necessarily where it's going to go. So keep that in mind. In this case, we've got a logo file, and the alt is home. Okay? If I click on that, it's a link, then I know I'm going to the home page. Okay? Again, a screen reader will use that alt as the text that gets read for the link. So instead of it saying http://abc.org, it's going to say a link home. Okay? Utilize icons. They're very visual, they're very helpful, but make sure that you're communicating that information. And then something like a search magnifier, that's very, very commonly used, but would you put magnifying glass for the alt on here, or would you put search? Okay, that's the point we're trying to make here. Now this gets a little more complicated if we start using font icons and some of those kind of things, but there are ways to make all of that perfectly accessible as well. Key here is if it's functional, used to initiate an action, let me know what's going to happen when I click on that link. I'm also going to give you just a couple ideas here on linking to documents. We all know how important documents are to our web content. And so a lot of times what we do is we put that link out there, but we don't have that context available for that link. So we can simply add a little bit of information. In this case, you have an image, but it's really more decorative. It's more visual. Okay, so let's put that decorative alt attribute on here. So then the only thing that's going to get read is going to be that April 2017 newsletter as the link. Now, what's even better though is if we can make that image part of the link, we can add that alt equals PDF to let somebody know that they're going to be clicking on a PDF link. And so you see by the red box that we've actually used that link to wrap up the image as well as the text. So just some ideas on ways to improve for all of your users. Now we've got a couple other ways that we can do this, and I prefer in a lot of cases to use this CSS class where we actually use the PDF icon as our link bullet. So then you build out that class and you use that same class on all of your different PDFs. Visually, you get the icon on everything, and you still are able to build out that list of all of the different downloads. So again, it's a fairly straightforward, easy way to approach it. One other thing that I would like to recommend when you do list your PDFs on your website or whatever documents they happen to be, it's always helpful to put the size as part of the link as well. And you think about it now, 2.3 megs, like this newsletter, would be. You may decide that, I don't have a great 4G connection right now. I may wait until I get to the office to download this newsletter to read it because I'm on a mobile device. What you're doing is you're just sharing more information with your users and giving them the opportunity to determine whether they want to click on that link or not. So it's less of an issue now. We're getting better connection speeds and all this kind of stuff, but it's still really helpful so that your users know the size of the document before they click to download. Just a few suggestions. Again, describe the purpose. They should stand out on the page visually as well. We know when something is part of a navigation menu, but if you've got links within your text, make sure that they're readily visible and they stand out on the page. Use meaningful words for those links, and again, keywords. If you put them close to the beginning of the link, again, that short description is going to be very, very helpful to have up front. Try not to use a URL for a link. It's confusing and it's difficult for a screen reader to parse that correctly so that it sounds right. You can just go ahead and just link regular text with that URL behind the scenes. Now the exception to that would be is if you're using an email address. Then it's very helpful for the email address to be represented in that link, because then it's very clear to me as a user that it's, when I click on this, it's because I'm trying to communicate with that person or that office. Okay, and again, try to avoid using the same link text to different places. That contact example, or click here, click here, click here. So keep them concise, make them easily scannable. Warn your users when links are going to open new documents or new windows. And don't put a whole bunch of extra links in. You're not really doing your users any favor. Try to keep the list as compact as possible and link out to relevant information, either within your site or going off to a different site. So it's important that I'm there to perform a function, a task. I have a goal of trying to communicate some information or find information that I'm looking for. Don't give me a maze to walk through. Take me directly on the path. All right, I'm going to keep moving, and we're going to go fairly quick through tables, but as content people, you can rely on tables. Tables are an excellent way to display data, and they're very straightforward and easy to make accessible. Do not use tables for layout. We want to really use them as simple grids to be able to associate information back and forth. So if you start getting really fancy and you have spans of rows and columns, and you've got a little grouping over here and an extra header there, and you're not doing any favors for your users. Okay, let's keep them simple and keep them in that grid format, and then make it easily readable for everyone. So pretty straightforward code right here. You'll see that we have a TR, which is a row, and a TD, which is a column. And we just go through and list those. Okay, but we can make that first row into a heading simply by changing those columns to heading tags. We've only changed a TD to a TH at this point, but we've already added a lot more valuable information to that table for our users. Now we can do the same thing on the columns so that you're associating that grid properly. Okay? Let's see what we're going for here. Yeah. Same thing. You can set that row and column headers, and again, you can style those THs. In this case, the default styling really bolds these. So even if you don't do anything at all, you'll see that the heading is a little bit different than the regular text in the table. So, but you can style them, make them look however you'd like. You can color the background of the rows and the columns, and it's you can go crazy with that stuff, but the information is going to be readable. Now, one of the other things that we can do is we can associate those columns and those rows. This is more helpful when you start getting into a little bit more of a complex table, but it is important to understand that you can do an actual one-to-one conversion here. Now, what's really interesting about it, though, is when you want to make a row, you use call, and when you want to use call, you use row. I know it's backwards, and it takes a little getting used to, but that's essentially what you're doing. So you're associating those headers with a particular column or a particular row. Let's see, proportional sizing. Yeah, try not to set any widths of your tables if you do use percentages. Especially now with responsive design, it's important that we're not setting anything so that it breaks your layout, whether it's mobile or desktop. Let the table scale to the space that it's in. Give it some room to breathe. We can add some captions to the tables. This is helpful to all of our users again, but especially assistive technology users. They can scan that caption to decide if they want to go into that table at all. Pretty straightforward. You add a caption, and it adds the caption to the table. It associates it right with that. Now the caption is right in that code. Okay, there's also a summary attribute, and the summary is part of the table tag, kind of like that alt attribute. Okay, but now keep in mind that the summary has no visual effect. This will not show up on the screen, but it is used by a screen reader user to understand what's this table for. Okay? So, keeping it short, use tables to display your data. It's better to use multiple simple tables versus one complex table. I know it's fun to see what we can create sometimes with those tables and how much information we can squeeze into one, but you're not doing your users any favors. So let's figure out the most simple table, even multiple simple tables that we can use to really communicate that information. Remember, they're there and they don't want to be frustrated looking for that information. Finally, we're going to address documents for just a few minutes. And you're probably asking yourself already, how are documents part of web accessibility? Well, the key here is that any online document, it is part of your online communication. Okay, and we sometimes rely on the website as the only way to provide this information, documents, or, sometimes their applications, things like that. But remember now that Section 508 says that the accessibility of your documents expose you as a website owner to the same risks as inaccessible web pages. So documents have been defined as one type of web content. So keep that in mind, that you have to keep on top of your documents as well now. There's some other standards for documents. We're not going to get into that too deeply because it's pretty complex, but just be aware that we're actually looking at ISO standards and everything once we get to PDFs. Okay, PDF UA is not a format itself, but it's a way to make the document accessible, and again, it's based on semantics. So there are times when it's okay to use PDFs. Secure documents, downloadable, print documents that need to keep formatting, think of newsletters or brochures, things like that. More detail, interactive forms, or archives, low usage. So my apologies on the slide here. It looks like my icons moved since the last time I had this deck open, but when I provide this next week, it'll be all cleaned up and accessible and ready to use. So, but keep in mind, PDFs are a great use and very valuable on the web. I'm not telling you not to use them, but let's use them in the right format for the right reason. So when should I not use a PDF? Well, just keep in mind that if you can make an HTML page, it's going to be easier to make accessible than making that PDF accessible. So don't use a PDF as a shortcut, because you can press the Save as PDF button and then upload the document. That's just not a good way to manage your PDFs and to utilize your PDFs. Okay. That said, there's a lot of PDFs out there right now that should have probably been HTML pages. Think about something like meeting notes. It's really with a templated content management system, it's really easy to create a new page for April 2019 notes and paste the information in versus, making it a PDF. Keep in mind too that it may even be policy, but sometimes Word files, Excel files, things like that should be PDFs versus the format that they're in. Now, if we're talking about sharing documents internally on an intranet, then it's probably more acceptable to utilize that Word, Excel format, etc. But if you're putting it out on the web for the public, let's try to use PDF or HTML. Well, who's actually responsible for making the PDF accessible? It's the responsibility of the office that is posting that document to make sure that that information is accessible. Okay? So then that means we may have to talk about document training as well as accessibility training for your web pages. Okay? Let's think about who's making these documents and why they're being posted. And then let's focus on the most common formats and really teach the importance of tagging. A lot of times people that are creating this information in Word documents and spreadsheets and things like that are not your web people. So you may have to go deeper for that training than your standard web team. So it's important to understand why that tagging is needed and how to save them correctly. Okay? Now, what happens is you start to take a look at this and start to think about what I'm telling you, and you say, wait a minute, what about all those documents that we have out there that are online already? And you're right, that can be a huge problem. So what we want to help you do, and what Siteimprove can help you do with our tools even, is think about a remediation plan for those existing documents. Let's get an inventory. Let's see what's out there. Let's see how old it is. Is it needed? If we can take 1,500 documents and eliminate 600 of them, then we've got that much less that we have to focus on for making accessible. Again, training is important. Let's prioritize. Let's use those numbers to figure out who's clicking on these documents and prioritize based off of where that activity is.
Hey,
you have to,
Kevin,
yes.
to interrupt you quick, I just wanted to let you know I took back over presenting because as you were talking about documents, I just wanted to get into the platform again to show.
That's perfect because it's my last slide.
Oh, perfect.
Great. So anyway, you may want to engage in a remediation service if you have a lot of documents that you have to clean up that have to stay live. But let's build an approach. Let's draw a line in the sand and start posting accessible documents and then focus on what's out there and get it cleaned up later. But with that, I've got time for questions, and thanks for your attention today. I know I covered a lot of information in a hurry.
Yeah, that was really good, Kevin. That was a lot of information on top of introducing the new platform, so I hope everyone found it beneficial. More than happy to continue doing some point and clicks. I know we scheduled full 2 hours, but a lot of into the weeds into the Siteimprove platform, and then some what is actually going on with accessibility. So with us coming out next week, and then there's always the potential to schedule another webinar without doing more clicking around or introducing a whole bunch of new features, wanted to kind of pause here and see if there is a bunch of questions. I know almost everyone that joined is still on, which is awesome to be able to see those numbers of the attendees. So I'd actually like to take the rest of the time to see if anyone has any questions. All right. If you're typing, keep on typing. If not, it sounds like not too many questions out there. So to just recap of what to do next, you have the ability to log into Siteimprove through your single sign-on link, contacting ETS if you have any questions about user setup, how do I get access. Bryce and John are administering the Siteimprove platform right now, and definitely give them your feedback. If today was really valuable and you want more of these, you want to get more in depth on some of these other services. I know we did kind of a real high level of each. We didn't dive too much into SEO or policy, but again, policy, think of it like your site search. Kevin mentioned it a few times, but being able to find content on your website or unwanted content, and then also being able to help date with the PDFs and documents, do I have any old documents? Do I have any very large images out there that's impacting the download? So again, being able to get through that. And then all of this too, I guess what I did want to wrap up with, I mentioned the export and being able to get a report. So what everyone has access to, and it's going to look a little bit different, you should be set up for a report, but in settings on the left-hand navigation, and then all the way down into the reports, we have a couple of standard reports pre-built, and then your site administrators have pre-built some too. So within the accessibility, wanted to let you know a run is a reflection of the information that's in the platform right now, and a new schedule would be the ability to get that at the completion of each scan or once a month. So let me just click in. I'll pick on the AGR site. We have our standard accessibility report. Again, mine will look a little bit different. Your drop-down will just have the information that you have access to. And I know I picked on AGS and not AGR, but just for example purposes. You get the new schedule. Sometimes it takes a little bit to get going, but then you'd be able to again say, all right, well, I want this report once a week at the completion of each scan or once a month.
Yeah, thanks, Travis. So we pre-configured reports to go to the our primary contacts for the websites. You'll be receiving monthly reports for individual websites, and then if you are our contact for your department as a whole, we also have tag-based reports. So any sites tag with say like AGR again, agriculture. Any sites that belong to agriculture, you'll get an overall report regarding all sites that fall under agriculture. You can go ahead and run ad hoc reports at any time if you want to pull a point-in-time report for your site, and you'll have access to do that. So upon clicking the SSO, the single sign-on link to get into the platform that we sent out in a previous email, you'll be added into Siteimprove, but just remember you won't have access to anything just yet. So at that point, contact myself or John Pescador and let us know what site that you manage, so we can make that assignment for you within the platform. And if you guys need, if that link wasn't forwarded around to you folks, just reach out to us and we can provide that information as well on how to access Siteimprove.
All right, thanks, Bryce. And then I did see a question come in. So I've been mentioning the scan. So as a user, you'll have the ability to scan the single page checks. And a quick check, I don't believe we have you set up with that access, but if you scroll down on any of the overview pages, the QA or the accessibility, if you have this recrawl website right by the next crawl date, that will kick off an on-demand crawl. Again, I apologize, I can't remember off the top of my head. Normally this is just identified for administrators and account owners, but any user can do a single page check. And that's when you get out to a page report, the Siteimprove, where we highlight the issues, and then you can rescan that page. The usability script that I mentioned that's collecting some of that analytics data throughout the platform, it's been implemented on your website already. I believe we're already collecting all the data, but what you see here, and it's pretty small, if it wasn't and you logged into usability, here's the script that should be placed on the website.
Yep, and we have that script implemented on all the WordPress sites that we hosted already, so you guys won't have to worry about that. If we don't maintain your site, then you'll want to add that script to gain access to the analytics functionality. And Michelle, just to follow up on your question as well, your user role won't have the ability to recrawl the entire site. But if you do need, for some reason, to recrawl your entire site, you can put in a request to us. Usually we issue recrawls when we do like large changes or updates, say to the template. If we're fixing accessibility issues template-wide, statewide, will push out a full crawl. But most part, if you're working within the platform and you're fixing these one-off, you're fixing your pages, you can go ahead and click the recrawl for that individual page at any time. So you can kind of see, has your change actually fixed the issue that was listed in Siteimprove. And Travis, can you go to the maybe the accessibility and the issues list for any site?
Yes, navigating there now.
Yeah, so as you work with these, and jump into one, I guess. You'll see a list of pages that have issues for this specific accessibility issue, and on the left here is that double arrow where you can recrawl a site page at any time. Also, if you click into that page Travis showed earlier, where you can recrawl that individual page.
Yeah, and then I saw the question on misspellings. I do want everyone to know there is the ability to make a decision in the misspellings area. I do want to let you know it does index it, and it's where I would say be careful with it, because right now it is account-wide misspelling.